this morning.
Okay, there we go.
All right. Thanks, David. All right. How many still breathing? Are you still breathing?
Right.
Because you need to be breathing to do this exercise. Of course, you actually need to be breathing to do any exercise, right? But everybody breathe in, but then exhale like completely. Everybody just breathe out completely. Now what happens? If you breathe out completely, what's the next thing that's going to happen? You're going to breathe in, right? Isn't that automatic? I mean, if you breathe out, it's only a matter of seconds, if that you're going to automatically, and we don't even think about it, of course, but you're going to automatically inhale. You're going to automatically breathe in. When you exhale, you're going to automatically breathe in. As a matter of fact, if you don't breathe in, basically there's something wrong with you, right? And you're not going to last very long without that. So it's science calls it a neurological reflex, but we would say, pretty much that it's automatic. But what's funny is, science doesn't understand how that happens. They don't understand where breath comes from, of course. It doesn't matter how much they study the human body. They don't know how we breathe. So at least sitting in church today, we could all agree that God fills our lungs with air. Isn't that right? That's what we believe, is I exhale. Every human being on the planet, if you exhale, you're going to inhale. If you're, healthy, normal, functioning properly, you're going to inhale. And so we just assume, well, God gives me breath. But one thing we can count on in life, that if I exhale, God's going to refill me. That happened. That's just simple science. We use it all the time. And of course, we don't even think about breathing anymore, but of course our brain is telling our body and lungs to breathe, but because we do it so much, we don't think about it anymore. So it's simple to see in breathing. Well, life's the same way. In life, if we're just consuming, in other words, if we're just inhaling in life, if we just inhale, life doesn't work. You can't just consume. You must also contribute. In breathing, if you just inhale and that's all you ever do, some bad things start happening. Number one, you don't last long, but your body starts stressing out, right? As soon as it realizes, ooh, there's no air, your body's going to stress out. A second thing that happens, if I don't exhale completely, carbon dioxide stays in my lungs. And that's actually a poison if it stays in there, and it stays in there too long. And the next thing you know, your brain says, oh no, too much carbon dioxide in my lungs. I need some more oxygen. So you start breathing more and more, or heavy, or rapid breaths, or hyperventilating, and now you got more stress, and it's all from not exhaling. Life is the same way. Just consuming, listen folks, just consuming totally stresses our life out. It doesn't feel like it at the time, but I'm telling you it does. Just like just inhaling will totally stress your body out. You gotta exhale. So just consuming, if we've lost the ability to produce or to contribute, and all we ever do or all we ever think about is consuming, I'm telling you folks, life is a disaster. I know a whole bunch of people that walk the streets all day long. They have lost the ability to produce or to contribute. And it's the saddest thing you'll ever see. They no longer contribute. They no longer produce anything. And man, talk about a disaster. It's just like what happens with our body. It just fills up with poison. It's deadly. And the same thing happens if now all I think about and all I ever do is consume. It's just as deadly and just as poisonous. So in breathing, we must inhale and exhale. In life, we must consume, of course, but we also must contribute. You have to contribute, or it's a disaster. The best example outside of North Creek that I can give you is the United States of America. In the United States, we have consumed more than any nation in history, the United States. We are consuming more than any nation ever. We have more wealth, we have more comfort, we have more convenience. I don't know if you remember what life was like even like 100 years ago, right? It's a completely different life that we have here in the last 100 years in America. Yet, listen folks, if life came from consuming, we should also have the best life, isn't that right? But guess what America also leads the world in? We lead the world in stress. We lead the world in medication, both legal and illegal. We lead the world in disease and illness. Why? Because we're consumers. We stop contributing. And it will fill our life with poison. When we stop contributing, when we stop exhaling, and then God refills. Same thing happens in life. If you become a contributor, I don't know how this happens, folks. I don't know how it happens. I don't know how breathing happens. I just know that next breath comes in, that God fills me up. And I've discovered that if you are a contributor in life, it may not always look like it. You got to live by faith. Just like I'm practicing faith this morning. Tony was like, "Why are you setting out so many chairs?" I said, "By faith. I believe all the chairs are full." That's what I see in my mind. By faith, you got to live by faith. But if you're a contributor in life, see, this is what I know. I can't see the future, but this is what I know. I know if you plant an apple seed and all things being equal, it's going to produce apples eventually. This is what I know. And I know this, that if I contribute, if I am a contributor, that God will refill me. That's an automatic, that God will refill me. But if I'm constantly consuming, God's not refilling. I'm just on this high stress path of consume. But if I will contribute, just like with my breath, God will refill me. That's what I've learned about life. Same thing's true spiritually. That if I not only receive, of course I want to receive everything God has, but if I add to my receiving giving, that God refills my spirit. That if I am a giver, God refills me. Let's look at this in Scripture. Well, I went through all these. So we've learned that if I exhale, God will fill my lungs. If I contribute, God will fill my life. If I'm a giver, God will fill my spirit. I won't be weak or infantile spiritually. I'll actually grow and be strong spiritually. If I become a giver, look at Philippians 2:3. This is from the Voice Translation. How many have never heard of the Voice Translation? I never even heard of it until maybe a couple months ago. But anyway, it's kind of like the Message Bible. You know, the Message Bible. It takes a lot of liberties, but it's okay. As long as you realize it's more a commentary. But I like it. It's a little less of a commentary than Message. But here's Philippians 2:3 in the Voice Translation. Don't let selfishness and prideful agendas take over. Embrace true humility and lift your heads to extend love to others. Notice that. Extend love. That's the give out part. That's the exhale part. That's the contribute part. Extend love to others. Get beyond yourself and protecting your own interests. Be sincere and secure your neighbor's interests first. Nobody lives that way. Secure your neighbor's interests first? We don't do that. Look, every man, King James says, on the things of others. You know, I was thinking about that. I think I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. But do you know there's 600 Americans to every homeless person? 600 of us. And we won't house that guy. 600 of us. Now, you tell me, are we living for ourselves or for the welfare of others? I see homeless people all the time. They're not housed. There's 1 million of them. 500,000 on any given night, 1 million per year. 600 Americans per homeless person, and we don't house them. There's about 1,200 Americans per orphan. And we don't care. 1,200 of us. We don't care. Now, it seems like we do kind of take care of widows. I don't see the same numbers about widows. That culture has learned something maybe about taking care of widows. But the poor, the homeless, and the orphan, so far, we haven't done anything. Yet the scriptures say, get beyond yourself in protecting your own interests, be sincere, and secure your neighbor's interests first. In other words, adopt the mindset of Jesus. Or in other words, be like Jesus. Because if I exhale, what's God do? Fills me back up. That's his job. If I contribute, what's God do? Fills me back up. If I give, if I put someone else's interest first, what's God going to do for me? He's going to fill that back up. That's just what he does. He just fills. But we don't trust him to do that. Because we take care of ourselves first and kind of only. 600 of us. I'm trying to get some homeless people housed. I can't tell you how much pulling teeth that is. And there's 600 of us per human to put in a house. Secure your neighbor's interest first. In other words, adopt the mindset of Jesus. Now, Jesus used, excuse me, the best example is the woman with the 2 pennies, the widow's mite. We all know that story, right? The best example of somebody who believed that God would refill. She believed that if I exhale, I'm going to get new bread. If I contribute, I'm going to get God's filling. If I'm a giver, God's going to refill me. She believed this. And Jesus set her up as an example to follow. Mark 12:41. Last week we read Mark 12:40 about the religious people who take from widows. And then he gives an example of how you're supposed to be. Not a taker in giver's clothes, but a giver. And Jesus sat down near the collection box at the temple and watched as the crowds dropped in their money. Don't you think that's funny? Isn't that odd that Jesus would do that? Just sit down by the collection box and watch people give money. That just seems like, for God to do, that seems like an odd thing. Nobody ever tells you that that's what God does. Nobody ever tells you that God sits down and watches what you contribute, what you give, what you exhale. Do you ever read, there's just a niche that I really like. Do you ever read near-death experience books? I read them all the time. Anyone that comes out, I've read them all. And if you read them, Michelle, I've got some good ones if you haven't. And I'd like to know yours if you have some that I haven't read. But I try and read them all, especially any of the Christian-type ones. And to the person that I can find, and I've probably read, 8, 10, 12 of these books, but to the person and to the experience, they all have what they all kind of describe as a life review. When they have this near-death experience and go to have a life review. And in this life review, the overwhelming understanding that they get is, what did you do with the life I gave you? That's the question of eternity. What did you do with what I gave you? Were you a contributor? Were you a giver? Because I'm telling you, folks, Jesus sits down next to your life and watches you to see if you're a contributor or a giver or not. And that's just who he is. That's what he does. It's important to him. Because why is he looking for contributors? Why is he looking for givers? Anybody guess? Why is he looking for those who will learn to give and contribute? Why is he looking for that? Any ideas?
So you can work through them?
He's looking for people that he can fill up. That's what he's doing. He's not looking to condemn anybody. You are who you are. But he's looking for people. He's like, who can I pour my spirit out on? Who can I give everything to? That's just going to let it flow through them. That's what he's looking for. And he found a woman that day. He said, he watched how the crowds dropped in their money. Many rich people put in large amounts. Now, I don't mind that at all. I know Jesus wasn't impressed with it, but I'll totally be impressed with you. You, rich person, want to put in large amounts, I totally like you. Jesus wasn't too impressed with you. I just let you know. He don't care. I love you though. But he says, many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Poor widow comes in and puts 2 pennies in the offering. Do you think I'm even going to think about that? Matter of fact, we used to have people that would come in. We had some special needs people, and that's what they would give. They would just give a little bit of change. And I think about this story every time, because to me, I didn't see anything. But spiritually, I know the truth. Spiritually, I know, oh, that's one of those people that Jesus is impressed with, because they're givers, they're contributors. He's not impressed with amounts. Many rich people put in large amounts. Then a poor widow came and dropped in 2 small coins. Jesus called his disciple to him and said, I tell you the truth. This poor widow has given more than all the others, and I think all the others combined, who are making contributions. For they gave a tiny part of their surplus. In other words, would you agree with me that people that give a tiny part of their surplus, they do not believe in any kind of refilling is going to take place? Isn't that right? They believe you got to take care of yourself and you got to hold on to what's yours. And they're just giving to look good. That's the context of this whole story. Looking good. But Jesus, he don't care how you look. He's not even concerned with that. Matter of fact, he was really not impressed with that, because they didn't believe that if you exhale, God's going to fill your lungs. That if you contribute, God's going to fill your life. That if you're a giver, God's going to fill your spirit. They didn't believe that. They believed in consuming gives life. And their actions proved it. But she, poor as she is, has given everything she had to live on. She believed. This woman is my hero of faith. She believed. I believe this with all my heart. She believed that givers get refilled. And she didn't even mind giving their last 2 pennies. Now, I just knowing Jesus, knowing that when Jesus sees somebody exhale, he fills it, their lungs with air. When he sees somebody contribute, he fills their life with good. He saw this woman contribute. I'm convinced he didn't just let her go home. He filled her up. I don't know how much. He probably told Judas, hey, go take care of her. And of course, Judas stole the money. But he got to her somehow, because he watched her. And this is what she believed. She may have even heard Jesus teach this. Here's what she believed. Look at this. Luke 6:38. Give, and you will receive. Isn't that all I've been saying today? Just contribute, and God will fill you up. Give, and God will fill you up. How do you know that? Just exhale and see if God doesn't fill you up. He does automatically. How many times? How many times are we going to breathe? And look what he says here. Give and you will receive. Your gift will return to you in full, pressed down, shaken together to make room for more, running over, and poured into your life. Would you agree with me that that's some type of a filling? Isn't that right? The amount you give will determine the amount you get back. Now we know he's not talking about numbered amounts. He's talking about percentages, right? Because the rich people in his story, they gave tiny amounts. But this woman gave a large amount. And that's what got Jesus' attention. And I believe, this is just me, we'll find out when we meet this woman in heaven, but I believe that she believe this. Nobody in their right mind would give their last 2 pennies unless they had some type of faith.
It's like Mother Teresa.
Yeah. Mother Teresa is a perfect example. She takes a vow of poverty and ends up helping millions of people. I was living in Phoenix the last time she came to the United States, I think, and she came to Phoenix. And the richest guy in Phoenix at the time gave her, I don't even know if she used it, but it was in the paper, he gave her the use of his penthouse for as long as she wanted it, and his private jet to fly anywhere in the world that she wanted to. She didn't have a dime. Couldn't rub 2 pennies together. But I believe she believed this. See, we don't believe this, folks. We don't live like we believe this. But a few people do. Every once in a while, somebody believes it. This little widow believed it. She's like, oh, I don't mind. Thank God for this that I have to give. Because now I qualify for this. Give, and you'll receive. Contribute, and I'll fill you back up. I need contributors, man. I have 500,000 homeless people whom I love sleeping in the bushes and streets tonight. And if I can find some contributors, I will fill you up so we can get them off the street. If I can just find somebody to contribute, to be a giver, and believe this word. The amount you give will determine the amount you give back. So what are we saying? This is what disciples do. We've turned into Sunday morning as discipleship training. Well, this is what disciples do. Disciples, they become like Jesus. They have that same mindset that Jesus had, that he put others before his own, that he had some type of faith, that he knew that as I give, God fills, so that I can give even more. That's how it works. That's what disciples do. Can you push the same little button that ends it, I believe? We'll see. We may not end today.
Goodbye, Facebook.
Thanks for joining us on church this morning. Think it stopped?
Yeah, it was like a...
You always just turn it off.
Yeah, well, it's probably stopped.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming today. In case it didn't stop. Oh, yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Cool. Hey, all right. In honor of our holiday weekend, and since everybody else is celebrating the holiday, we'll just dismiss early today. And I have a great discovery group of what we'll do it next week. It's really a great one, and I really was excited about doing it. But we'll just do it next week, and it'll still be good next week.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, you may.
With regard to this part of Scripture, one of the messages that I give the inmates out of the prison, God is not a vending machine.
Mm-hmm.
You don't put in to get out.
Mm-hmm.
You put in with the expectation of having something happen with what you've done, not just to get back.
Yeah, and and I think if you're being selfish about it, we read that scripture, don't be selfish. If you're being selfish about anything, it's not going to work. You do need to truly care about people. There is a principle there, though, that a farmer, he plants for a specific purpose, and that is to get a harvest back. I mean, a farmer is not going to farm unless that harvest has come. So I think the main point is right. Your motive is very important. I don't think God's going to honor selfish motives. But our faith does need to be in the system that God has put in play here. Whatever you sow, you will reap. That's a system that's in this earth. And we just follow along with it. And it's not, we're not resisting that system or trying to use it for our own selfish or personal gain. So, yes, I agree with that. Hey, we received our offering at the front table. Thanks for coming today. You may be dismissed. And bring everyone you know next week. Let's see how that works. See you next week. you guys. Good to see you, Lisa.
Sure.
Oh, I appreciate you coming. Hey, see you, man. Thanks for coming, ladies. Don't get too hot out there. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Tony. You shouldn't be doing that, man. I know. That's not for people with two knees. Driving this week.
I got it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would. You know, I wouldn't have my front end line. And that's, you know, it's close to the right. After that, I just want to turn up. It's where my car. Well, that's
Oh.
and I'll tell you, I was so upset about it. Yeah, you know, and I'm like, guys, seriously?
Yeah, right.
But yeah, I drove up.
Can you feel it? Can you feel it?
Oh, yeah.
So you just,
Too funny.